Happy New Year's, guys. I hope everyone enjoyed the holidays. Today's episode is quite interesting. So I decided to bring my friend Brittany along for the ride. Brittany, welcome back.
Hey everyone!
So today I'm going to tell you about an unsolved case from 1946. And Brittany and I are in a group in Discord. And we had a true crime community night. And one of the listeners actually recommended this story because it was a relative of hers. So I did some research and found out not only is it an unsolved mystery, but it is also Arkansas's first serial killer.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a twofer. And there's a lot of debate with this one. So I'm going to give you some facts and then we'll discuss what we think. How's that feel?
Sure.
All right. So this case happened from February 22nd to May 3rd of 1946 in the area of Texarkana. And they were terrorized at that time by someone who would later be known as the Phantom Killer, the Phantom Slayer, and the Phantom of Texarkana. Now, during the 10-week assault, the culprit was accused of attacking 8 people, 5 of which died. All of the attacks happened at night between male-female couples, but it only consisted of 4 attacks. The first 3 happened at spots that were considered lovers' lanes, and they were more secluded areas off to the side of the road. And that's where we're going to start. So on February 22nd, 1946, around 11:45 p.m., 25-year-old Jimmy Hollis and 19-year-old Mary Jean Larey had went parking after seeing a movie. About 10 minutes after they parked, a man approached their car wearing what appeared to be a pillowcase with eyes cut out of it. So he knocks on the window and he orders them out of the car. He then ordered Jimmy to take off his pants. And then he proceeded to hit him on the head twice with the butt of the gun.
Ow.
Mary later stated that it sounded like a gunshot, but it was actually Jimmy's head fracturing.
Ow.
That's how hard he hit him. Mary thought that the man wanted to rob him, so she showed him Jimmy's empty wallet just to be hit on the head with a blunt object.
Yeah.
And the assailant then told her to stand, so after she did, he instructed her to run. She began running toward a ditch. He stopped her and had her run up the road. While she was running, she ran across an old car parked at the side of the road. The car turned out to be empty. Now, I think the car belonged to the assailant because she was confronted by him again, right past the car. And he asked her why she was running.
Why are you running?
That's exactly how I heard it. She told him he told her to. And he called her a liar and then knocked her down and assaulted her with the barrel of the gun. After the assault, she ran half a mile to a nearby house where she woke up the residents and called the police. By this time, Jimmy had regained consciousness and flagged down a passing motorist who also called the police. It took 30 minutes for the Bowie County Sheriff, Bill Presley, and 3 other officers to arrive at the scene. By that time, the attacker had disappeared.
Oh, yeah. 30 minutes?
Yeah. Mary was hospitalized overnight for a minor head wound, while Jimmy was hospitalized for several days with multiple skull fractures.
Ugh.
During the investigation, Jimmy and Mary gave conflicting stories regarding their attacker.
Huh.
Mary claimed the attacker was a light-skinned African American, while Jimmy stated he was a tanned white man around 30 years old. But they both agreed that he was around 6 feet tall, which in the 1940s, that was considered tall, since the average height was about 5'8". So the average man in 1940s was the same height as my husband.
I mean, 6 feet is still pretty
It's still considered tall.
tall. Yeah.
So investigators decided, since it was conflicting stories, that Mary and Jimmy knew their attacker and they were protecting him.
What?
Now, my argument is, if they were protecting the attacker, why would they call the police at all?
Right.
And furthermore, why would she protect someone who assaulted her with a weapon?
Why indeed?
So I just don't see how their logic works for that. So 1 month later, on March 24th, 29-year-old Richard Griffin and his girlfriend, 17-year-old Polly Ann Moore, were found shot to death in Richard's car by a passing motorist who first thought the couple was just asleep. Now, Richard was found between the front seats, on his knees, with his head resting on his hands, which were crossed, and his pockets were turned inside out. Polly Ann was found face down in the back seat, kind of just like thrown in it, from the way that they described it. Now, evidence suggests that she was placed there after being shot outside the car. Richard had been shot twice, and both victims were shot in the back of the head, and they were still fully clothed. However, there was a patch of ground that was soaked in blood, which is indicative of one or both being shot and killed outside the car. With that amount of blood, I'm saying both of them. Now,
Wow.
to me, it definitely seems like Richard's body was posed.
Wow.
Obviously, it was posed.
Mm-hmm.
They make no mention of this in the police reports.
Of course not.
Because it's 1940s. They're not thinking about that. They don't take any of that into consideration. So, to me, it almost feels like there was a little extra anger toward the females in both of the cases. But according to the records, there was no autopsy on either Richard or Polly Ann. But there were rumors that Polly Ann had been sexually assaulted.
Hmm.
Now, the more modern reports disagree, but if there was no autopsy, how would they know for sure? And again, I have to keep reminding myself when I read this that it was the 1940s. They didn't even know what DNA was, let alone have the use of it.
That's so wild to think of how progressive
I know, right?
technology is when you say, oh, the 1940s, that wasn't really that long ago.
But scientifically, it was. When you look at the science of it.
That's nuts. My mind just...
And I also have to remind myself, it was not uncommon for crime scenes to be compromised. So anybody and everybody could just walk up to the crime scene.
Yeah.
And they did. I mean, it was no big deal.
Wow.
But they did find a spent .32 caliber shell casing at the scene. And they found it in a blanket that was near the bloodstain on the ground. So we went a month between the first attack and the second. But now we see the attacker escalate in his attacks, because on April 14th, only 3 weeks later, 17-year-old Paul Martin picked up 15-year-old Betty Jo Booker around 1:30 a.m. after a musical performance at the VFW at West 4th and Oak Street. Paul's body was found around 6:30 a.m. that same morning. It is lying on its side by the northern edge of North Park Road. There was blood found on the other side of the road by a fence. Paul had been shot 4 times.
Jeez.
Betty Jo's body wasn't found until around 11:30 a.m. And it was found nearly 2 miles from where Paul was found. Her body was found behind a tree on its back, fully clothed. However, she was posed with her right hand in the pocket of her overcoat. She had been shot twice. Both victims had been shot with a .32 automatic Colt pistol. Paul's car was found 3 miles from Betty Jo's body and almost 2 miles from Paul's body. It was parked outside Spring Lake Park with the keys still in it. Investigators were unsure of who was shot first. According to Sheriff Presley and Texas Ranger Manuel Gonzalez, the post-mortem exams showed evidence that both victims struggled. Paul's friend Tom told investigators that he did not believe that the victims had an argument with each other, and he did not think that Paul had any enemies.
They never do. I feel like that's something that is said a lot.
Yeah.
All the time.
It's
everybody
kind of
has enemies, even if you don't know it.
Right. So then, just shy of 3 weeks later, on May 3rd, shortly before 9 p.m., 37-year-old Virgil Starks and his 36-year-old wife, Katie, were at home on their 500-acre farm, almost 10 miles from Texarkana. As Virgil sat in his armchair reading the newspaper, he was shot twice in the back of the head from a closed double window. Katie came from the other room after hearing the glass break and watched Virgil stand up and then slump back into his chair. Now, she realized that he was dead, so she ran to the wall crank phone to call the police. It rang twice before she was shot twice in the face from the same window. She ran to get a pistol, but couldn't see because of her own blood, running down her face.
Oof.
And then she heard the shooter at the back of the house, and so she ran, barefoot, out the front door.
Sounds like a horror movie.
I know, right? She originally ran to her sister and brother-in-law's home, but no one was home. So she ran to a neighbor's house, told them that Virgil was dead, and then collapsed. The neighbor shot his rifle in the air to summon another neighbor, who then helped him get Katie to the hospital. Now, their sheriff was W.E. Davis, and he questioned Katie and then took over as the head of the investigation. And it's funny you should mention that it sounds like a horror film, because we're going to touch on that here in a minute too.
Oh, was it a scene in a movie? I'm just kidding.
It was its own movie.
What?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
So this is one of those cases where the investigation was done from every aspect of the law. It was done by city, county, state, and federal officials.
Phew.
And there have always been conflicting reports on if the first incident and fourth incident were even connected to the two in the middle. Now, the main suspect was a man by the name of Yule Sweeney. He grew up in Arkansas, and he was the son of a Baptist minister. But he was also well known in the criminal world as a counterfeiter and a car thief. And he was connected to the murders by his wife, who told investigators that he wasn't at home during the time of any of the incidents. She was able to give detailed information regarding the murders of Booker and Martin. The third incident. Now, between her statements and the circumstantial evidence that was found, the police could have charged him and tried him as the Phantom, but Miss Peggy refused to testify against him in court. And even to this day, you cannot make a wife testify against her husband, and you can't make a husband testify against their wife. They have to willingly do it. So, instead of charging him with murder, police instead charged him with car theft. In 1947, he was convicted as a repeat offender and was sentenced to life in prison. In 1973, he was released from prison because a re-examination of the case found that the prosecutor brought up a conviction from 1941. That conviction was voided because he had not been represented by counsel. Yule Sweeney died in a nursing home in Dallas, Texas in 1994. He was the only major suspect. What little physical evidence was gathered has long since become non-existent, as well as the original reports going missing.
Huh.
So this case, it caused a lot of hysteria in Texarkana after Virgil Starks' murder.
Yeah.
And before the murder of Mr. Starks, it was not unusual for people to leave their homes unlocked. The day after he was killed, stores sold out of locks, guns, ammo, window shades, and blinds.
I'm sorry.
It's not
But
fun.
like, I don't care how much you think you trust your community. Lock the door.
So the hysteria spread as far as Oklahoma City. But after 3 months and no other incidences, the fear subsided. In 1976, the movie The Town That Feared Sundown was released. In 2013, it was re-released on Blu-ray by Scream Factory.
The Town That Feared
Sundown.
I've never heard of that.
I have.
Googling.
Now, this case, and you and I discussed this before we started recording, but this case was originally suggested to me by one of Virgil Starks' great nieces. And
I started typing The Town That, and it says Dreaded Sundown, 1976 and 2014. Yes?
That's probably it.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. All right. Got it.
I think the original title for it was The Town That Feared, but I think they changed it. I think they tweaked it.
Moonlight Murders.
It's also known as the Moonlight Murders.
Wow. This movie, this is the 2014 one. It says 65 years after a mass serial killer terrorized the small town of Texarkana, the so-called Moonlight Murders begin again. Ooh, is it a copycat or something more?
It would have to be a copycat because Yule died. And
If he was the guy.
Well, I believe he was. And I say that because he was in jail, and the whole time he was in jail, it never happened again. So,
I mean, I could see that, I guess.
I could not find, like I said, the original reports all disappeared. So I can't find any report of what the evidence was that they had on him. But there was a reason they focused on him. And then for the murders to just stop after he was apprehended. I think he really was the Phantom. But the gun used on Virgil Starks and his wife Katie was a high-powered rifle, not the handgun. So that, that brings up the question of, was Virgil Stark's murder done by the Phantom, or was it just a random killing?
I don't know, but I feel a movie night, community night coming. Or something. Because, I'm looking at both movies. The one from 1976, the little synopsis or summary, summary, it's the word.
Synopsis is right there.
Well, whatever. Makes it sound like it's a documentary type thing. It says the story of a hooded berserk killer who terrorized the border town of Texarkana, Arkansas in 1946, leaving no fewer than 5 murder victims in his wake. He was never caught, based on one of America's most baffling murder cases. Okay, so it doesn't, like, the way that's even worded, and it's like under the title, A True Story. The other one was like dead ass horror movie.
Well, the 1976 one,
it's listed under horror, but it also says crime and drama.
Well, it was actually done by they actually interviewed the investigators, and they really apparently investigate or talk to the Texas Ranger Gonzalez, and he even left law enforcement to become a what's it called?
Don't know what you're searching for.
he would help give information for movies. Like he would. I can't remember what it's called.
I think
I'm drawing a blank.
Same. I know what you mean, though.
But he left law enforcement to go into entertainment, and so it really turned people against him as well. And they felt like he was using the murders for fanfare because he was the spokesperson. He would get out in front of the cameras and talk to the people, and he'd get on the radio and everything. And, he made sure his name was known. And so it really, when they couldn't solve the case, it turned people against him.
Weird.
But what is your honest opinion? What do you think that the first and the fourth murders are connected, not only to each other but to the second and third murders?
I don't know. I mean, why? I felt like as you were saying it almost sounded like they were like the most random locations.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like a red flag to me, I guess, or it flagged in some fashion to me. Because why? I guess I just don't understand how a criminal's brain ticks.
That's why I do this. It's because I want to know how it works and why they do what they do. And it's
like what was the rationalization here?
And I think that is the thrill of it, is we don't know. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It was couples. It was, up until the Starks, it was couples that were just essentially driving home from basically date night. And
right, like, are you jealous you don't have a boo? I'm sorry. Are you mad you're gonna die alone, so you have to kill all the couples having lovely dinners and movies?
But see, Zodiac did something similar. Because Zodiac started out, it was all murders of people that were on dates, and it was like Lover's Lane kind of things. So the Starks don't fit into the...
Which one was them again? I think I only wrote down one attack.
The fourth one. The one in the farmhouse.
In the farm... They were in a farmhouse? Okay.
They were in their home.
I swear I was here, guys.
They were actually in their home, and he was shot through the window. And then she was shot through the window.
Right.
But the MO doesn't It doesn't
Yeah.
fully match. That one, I wonder if it wasn't a home invasion gone bad.
Wasn't the other two like I know the first one they were like bashed in the head.
But they survived.
And I think one of them stabbed. Am I remembering this correctly?
No,
My brain's all over the place today.
you're
I'm sorry.
you're thinking of Zodiac now.
I don't know anything about it. That's the thing. That's so weird. My brain's just all over the place. That's fine.
Zodiac is an interesting case, and we may cover some of that, but yeah, that one was
Mhm.
rather interesting. But yeah,
I don't know much about it.
I feel like
Talked about
Zodiac
it
kind
before.
of copied some of this because Zodiac happened after.
Oh, so maybe he is the copycat.
That's what it was kind of like a, oh, let me do one better kind of deal.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, or, he may have been on to something. But, and I'm wondering with the first attack if there were not two attackers. Because how did he get to the other car that fast? And then not know that he made her run?
Well, I mean, when you said it, my brain wasn't fast enough to say it before you kept going. But when you were saying that in the beginning, my first thought was, oh, this is how we gaslight. Like, like, why are you running? You told me to. No, I didn't. Like, wait.
And then attack
You're
her,
crazy. Right? Whack! Hit you in the head for that. Like, hold on a minute. Wait a minute.
So it's,
Mm-hmm.
I see where they get, were they connected, were they not? I see that. And out of all of them, the one that I think has the most potential to not be connected would be the Starks. Because the other three all kind of coincide.
Yeah, those are similar.
But I do wonder if the Starks was not a home invasion gone wrong.
Yeah. I think that's where my brain started to process it as this is random locations because that one was so off.
Mm-hmm. And then the ages of, and I also noticed, other than Katie, all of the girls had two names. Like, they went by
Mary
their
Jane,
first and middle names.
Betty something, I didn't write
Betty
it all.
Jo,
Betty
Mary
Jo.
Jean, and Polly Ann.
Wow. Why did I think of Riverdale as soon as you said those names?
I have no idea. I've never seen Riverdale, so.
Oh my gosh. It's good. The last few seasons get weird. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. My bad.
But that's the information that I could find on it. That's...
Damn. I think we're going to have to do a community night and watch the movies.
I think, at least the first one I would be down for.
Heck yeah.
I don't do horror films too well. But
yeah, the first one looked more documentary-y. It was listed under horror, but I mean...
that's more up my alley. I like suspense, not scary and gory. So
right.
I cannot watch the Saw movies to save my life, so...
Me either. It's okay.
But guys, I truly, truly appreciate all of you for joining us today for this episode. And Brittany, really appreciate you coming and sharing your 2 cents on it and letting me spout off my thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Anytime.
Please, guys, make sure that you're following on Spotify. The podcast is now up to 53 followers.
Holy stinking crap, man. It's awesome.
If you follow me on Facebook, I actually did the sour candy challenge. I posted it on the wrong page.
Oh my God.
I posted it on my personal page and not the podcast page because I forgot I had a podcast page.
Oh my God. Okay, so post it to your Twitter as well.
I did post it to Twitter, and I also posted it to the I posted the Lemon Warhead video, which Miss Brittany had to help me edit. But I got it posted to TikTok. Yes, so you can go to either one of those and you can see it. So now our next goal is 100 followers on Spotify. Once we hit that, I will do Bean Boozled.
I know how bad those are.
And you saw the faces I made with the warheads. Mm-hmm. It wasn't fun for me.
Oh, but it was hilarious.
I had a migraine the next day.
Oh, no. I know you love us, but come on now.
This is why I don't eat sour stuff very often. I can't because it causes me to have a migraine. But it didn't last long, so that was a plus.
That's good.
But if we can hit 1,000 listeners in 60 days, I will also do a spicy food challenge. I don't know what I'm going to eat yet, but I have...
Something spicy?
Well, yeah, something spicy. It was not a spicy food challenge otherwise.
I'm sorry I had to.
But anyway, guys, I look forward to chatting again soon. And until then, stay true and whatnot. Later, guys.
Bye.